Thanks, Michael. Really excited to be here. Thank you so much for inviting us. This is something that we've been looking to expand our reach in terms of how do we communicate with other interested partners. So thanks for inviting us. Brent, do you want to go ahead and share the slides?
Absolutely. Are they not sharing right now?
I don't see it. Let me turn mine off. Make my camera off. Can you guys see that? Great.
It looks good.
All right. Fantastic. All right. Okay. So building quality communities. We're just going to do a quick round robin of intros. I'll go first. I'm Justin Im, Senior Media Partnerships Manager on the business development team, specifically the gaming lead for the BD team. I've been with Reddit for the past year now, working on building out and expanding our strategy for integrations and partnerships with different game companies. Before this, I was at Twitch working on the business development team there, working with game partners and streamer tools. Brent?
Thank you, Justin. Great to see everyone over VC. Hope everyone is well. Again, my name is Brent Carlson. I work on gaming and tech at Reddit. So working in the ad sales division, formerly at Facebook and Instagram for about 8 years, where I worked in the gaming vertical, touching many of the most popular publishers and developers. So obviously really happy to now be at Reddit for about the past 6 months, focused on gaming and tech, and excited to share with you today. To you, Brad.
Cool. Thanks, Brent. I'm Brad Peck. I work on the community team over at Reddit. I've been here for about half a decade now, which is pretty crazy to say. And I work incredibly close with all of our different gaming communities, from mobile games to consoles, you name it. If there's a game out there, I've probably talked with the community. And I'm looking really forward to doing this. So thank you, guys.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, guys. We chose this group because we represent pretty much the entire vertical around partnerships and different ways that a brand or partner can interact with Reddit. So we're really excited to talk to you about 3 different tracks. The first one will be audience and products. That will be handled by Brent. Partnerships is what I'll be taking right after him. And then Brad will be handling community. And then after that, it should take about anywhere between 45 to 60 minutes for this content. And then we have about 30 minutes left over for an Ask Us Anything. So feel free to drop your questions in a chat and we'll answer that at the end. Great. Over to you.
Awesome. All right. That was rapid fire introductions. I love it. I love how we're on time here, guys. We're very punctual. Awesome. So want to start off and frame up Reddit's mission. So our mission is to bring community and belonging to everyone in the world. We believe that everyone has a place and a home on Reddit. And you can see via this heat map that we have a high concentration, mostly in English-speaking countries. So the US, Canada, UK, Germany, and Australia. Obviously all English-speaking, but we do have ambitions to be a truly global platform with expansion plans across the globe, including localization in other languages. For example, in India, like Hindi and Bengali, but many others. So watch for us to grow and expand quite a bit globally over the next 1 to 2 years. And then I'm not sure how many folks in this VC are familiar with Reddit. So we thought we'd do just a really quick history of Reddit. So 2005, Reddit is born right out of a dorm room. Looked very much like Craigslist. Was very kind of simple, and that's what made it pretty special. It's what made Reddit unique. In 2006, we actually sold to Condé Nast. They purchased it, but essentially just parked it on some servers and kept it running. Really didn't invest in the business a whole lot. Didn't hire any new engineers. Necessarily that many. There was no mobile app, and basically just continued to run it ad hoc, status quo. But meanwhile, and this is the biggest takeaway, is that during that time of 10 years, the user growth really continued to skyrocket and grow. So that prompted the founder, one of the 2 co-founders, Steve Huffman, to return to the company to help lead it as CEO. And Alexis Ohanian returned to the board, our other co-founder. So we're starting to grow up as a company. Those 10 years went by. And then we're happy to announce in 2017 that we've joined the rest of the world and rolled out a mobile app. So in 2017, we did a complete site redesign, made it a lot more user-friendly, easier to use. while keeping the original version for our loyalists who love the simplicity of the original Reddit. But rolled out that mobile app in 2017 across iOS and Android. And then just a couple of years later, this year, we announced that we're hitting 430 million monthly active users globally, a number we're very, very proud of today. And we actually have a brand new company narrative coming very soon, so you can watch for that actually in the coming weeks to hit the press. A real quick look at our audience and products. So the audience, I know we mentioned the 430 million number already. It's made up of 150,000 communities. And one thing that we're really proud of at Reddit is while there is some duplication across the other major social platforms, there are a lot of Redditors, as they call themselves, which we love that they self-identify and refer to themselves as Redditors. They're not on other platforms. So you can see the chart here, and this is for the entire US audience. That they're not found on other major social platforms. So you could do the quick back of the envelope math. And for example, on Facebook, 17% of our 430 million users are not on Facebook, and that's roughly 73 million people. So 73 million people is a very large number in the US that does not exist on that platform. And this is not our own data. This is actually ComScore verified data. And then on the right, you have a time spent stat, which is really intriguing because you don't see this high of a time spent for a lot of the social platforms. And one reason that we like to call out that this exists is because Reddit is a place where people actually like to read and write. So not only do we have the photos and GIFs, images, etc., but people like to spend a lot of time actually writing, commenting, and providing a depth of conversation on the platform, and that leads to a lot of time spent on Reddit. And then again, if we're all together in a room, this is where I would do a body poll and ask how many people actually use Reddit today. And it's usually about 50-50. But we thought we'd, for the sake of sharing how the platform works, just quickly walk through what makes up the platform fundamentally speaking. So you have a home feed, which I know that many people are familiar with on other social platforms. This is your content feed, right? This is where the communities and posts that matter to you are surfaced based on your preferences and the upvotes of other Redditors. And then subreddits, again, with over 150,000 of these communities, which we call subreddits, these are the backbone of Reddit. They're created by our users, not by us, based on the passions and interests of our community, and moderated by volunteers that are often the most passionate about that community topic. And of course, posts, right? Posts, as you might imagine, really are the main content on the platform. And this is made up of the usual suspects of photos, videos, GIFs, memes, and again, often lots and lots of text. Redditors love to read and write, and this is really, again, a unique platform trait that we're proud of. And something that makes Reddit truly unique is the fact that we have an upvote and downvote system. So unlike other platforms that are based off of an algorithm that is based off of your interests, all the posts are either upvoted or downvoted by Redditors, and this is what helps provide the logic to surface posts to you based off of the communities and topics that you're following. So that ensures that the best, most relevant posts are surfaced to you. And again, comments are a big part of Reddit. So not only are the posts themselves very text heavy with lots of copy, lots of writing, but the comment strings get very, very deep and very, very threaded. And these themselves, the content comments themselves, can also be upvoted and downvoted to ensure the best comments, the most relevant comments are being surfaced. And in addition to the upvotes and downvotes being very unique to Reddit, it's also the rules that are employed by our volunteer moderators. So every single community on Reddit, again, called subreddits, for example, we have cat standing up on the left here, and then we have analog on the very right. They have a set of rules that must be abided by the users, by Redditors. If these rules are broken, then the volunteer moderators remove the content from the platform. And so again, it really ensures a very relevant, consistent experience that is on point, on topic for that community and interest. All right, moving to a topic that is near and dear to this audience's heart on the VC. So it may not be a surprise to some, but gaming is the largest category on Reddit. Gamers across all platforms, whether it's console, PC, mobile, etc., genres and experience levels, really turn to Reddit to learn about the newest games on the horizon. They have deep conversations about those games, share tips, tricks, and really strengthen the community around the games that they're most passionate about. We have close to 90 million monthly visitors in the gaming audience specifically in the US. This is a 2019 stat, looking to update it, but given the recent pandemic, unfortunately, we have now seen quite a bit of growth here. So this number is approaching 100 million, and we'll publish that number here shortly, but really proud of our numbers of gamers on the platform. That equates to about 3 billion monthly views. You can see data year over year from 2018 to 2019, growing quite significantly at 70% in terms of the engagements in the platform. And engagements are going to be things like upvotes and comments and posting. So again, seeing really strong growth. We did share the countries that Reddit is in today, as you can see bottom right. In terms of the US age breakdown, you can see we skew quite young, with over half being 34 and younger. And again, this is where people come to find the topics that are most relevant to them. We find that this is really kind of the aha moment for people when they start using Reddit, is they find that one community that they're really interested in, they want to come back to day to day, whether that be just r/gaming, r/Xbox One, or a specific game title that they want to learn about, or something more broad like technology or photography. But really, users come back to Reddit. We found 85% through an internal study really come back for a specific community to learn a lot. And then, of course, through their home feed, they want to learn a lot more about other topics and joining many other communities. Cool. So a slide we like to share because it really illustrates the scale of Reddit is the fact that there's some wonderful endemic publications out there in the gaming space. I know that many people on the call probably love IGN. I know I do. GameSpot, as well as Twitch, and really enjoying Twitch's rise of live streaming. But Reddit is larger than all three of those combined today and still growing. And you can see here that half actually own a console of some sort. That's half of all Redditors. And 63% of Redditors play a game on any device. So that would mean, of course, mobile as well. And I did share a time spent slide earlier. This is showing gaming specifically and how gamers spend time on Reddit. It's actually been greater than our user average at 46 minutes per visitor. And you can see how this stacks up relative to some of our peers like Twitter, IGN, PC Gamer, GameSpot, and Kotaku. So really happy with the level of engagement and time spent on the platform there. And then earlier I shared a slide around unduplicated reach, and where you can find incremental people that aren't easily found on other platforms, whether it's these socials, and it's increasingly hard to reach people on TV. So again, we're really proud that we can reach people in the US and beyond that aren't easy to find on other social platforms. This slide is different from the one I shared earlier because it looks at console gaming specifically. So these are console gamers in the US. This data is from ComScore at the end of last year. And so you can see pretty quickly that, of our massive audience of gamers, which again is approaching 100 million, is that 29% of those are not found on Facebook, 33% not found on Twitter, etc. All right, keeping moving. So Reddit is a full funnel platform, driving the full marketing funnel. Some fun stats to share here that we have through an internal survey, that 73% of Redditors, they find out about new games first on Reddit. It's really a platform that Redditors turn to learn about new games. And the middle stat there at 53% is telling us that this is where people turn to figure out if they're going to plop down $60 to buy the console game, if they're going to invest in that free-to-play game, invest hours in the battle royale, if they're going to purchase and play that game with their friends. And so that's a common theme we've heard across the board is Redditor is where people can trust the information and turn to for the best information on games. And then kind of a fun stat. In fact, I want to update this one and see if it's still accurate because this is from actually a year ago. But 95% of a subreddit, so of a community, own that particular game. So, for example, if we're talking about Halo, 95% of people actually own that game. They're part of that community, and oftentimes these are in the millions of people, which makes sense, right? If you're going to join a community, it's probably because you own the game and want to share tips and tricks and talk about the game you love. But just a fun stat to share there. Real quickly, just looking at a few examples of ad campaigns on Reddit. Again, I work on the brand partnerships team at Reddit and work with gaming partners. And these are a few of the ads from some of our partners in the last couple of months. You can see on the far left, Xbox advertising their controller, their Elite Series 2, which my son absolutely loves. Fantastic controller. You can see the hit game, probably arguably one of the biggest games of all time. Certainly PlayStation's biggest exclusive ever, with Tilo 2, The Last of Us 2, being advertised on Reddit as a promoted post. But then also they're running in our trended takeover placement at the very top there. You can see, and then a campaign we're really proud to partner with Epic Games on. Just last quarter was their free giveaways, where they give away some really great titles on the platform and other platforms, where in this example, they were actually giving away Grand Theft Auto 5 for life on PC. All right, so we're going to pivot now, guys, from audience and those ad examples to look at some exemplary subreddits. So really some brands that we think are doing some fantastic organic work on the platform. So I think we have 5 or so examples in here, and I do have some videos, but I'm going to respect that not everybody's going to have a great connection. So I'm only going to play maybe a few seconds of each video, assuming that might be the case. But I'll speak to certainly what these videos are in here. So this first example is Ubisoft. This has been a longtime client and friends of mine, big fan of Ubisoft and their titles. But they have a really great subreddit in r/Rainbow6. They have well over 1 million people now. I think it's probably between 1.5, but they do a great job of actually partnering with the volunteer moderators. So we actually have employees of Ubisoft, reaching out in a very, hands-off type way, saying, this is your subreddit, how can we help? And working with the moderators that run this. And they partnered in such a way where they saw a lot of growth, great content, great engagement, and really had a strong relationship with the lead moderator. His name was Lord Kieran, and they actually made a video about him. So I'll play this again for just a few seconds. I won't spend too much time on it. It's a couple minutes long, but basically they're thanking Lord Kieran and basically showing all the work that he puts in and how he's able to be the lead moderator for this subreddit. So I'll just play a quick 10 or 15 seconds.
So anytime you're creating rules for a diverse community, really, you can't just create them in isolation. You have to understand people's backgrounds and really where they come from. It's easy just to set up rules one time and be done with it, but it's the constant feedback from the community that these rules apply to that really matter.
Okay, I wish I could play that whole video, but again, I'm not sure how many of you are seeing a very choppy video versus seeing it play well and the audio be solid. So I apologize for cutting that short, but if you Google for Ubisoft, Reddit, Lord Kieran, you'll find that. Another exemplary subreddit is Blizzard and Overwatch. Again, another one's growing quite a bit, not just the casual, but also the competitive side of the game. You can see it's now almost 3 million people. When they were passing 1 million people, again, the team at Blizzard reached out to the moderators and said, hey, we'd like to celebrate this occasion. We'd like to celebrate that we're passing 1 million people on our Reddit community. What can we do? And they came up with a really cool idea that I'll play again just for a few seconds, where they had the voice actors of people from the Overwatch game express their thanks to the Reddit community for engaging on Reddit and being a part of their community.
Hi Reddit, I'm Aaron DePaul, the voice of Reinhardt in Overwatch, and we want to thank you for your kindness, your generosity, and you're just being super cool people. We've got so many followers and so many just good feelings. You make us so happy, I could cry!
Okay, awesome. The next example, Fortnite BR. In many ways, this is a pilot subreddit, a pilot community on Reddit doing some very innovative things. If you want to see some of the coolest stuff happening on our platform from an organic perspective, definitely check out r/Fortnite BR. They have a lot of custom icons, badges, flair, etc. If you go there, you'll see what I mean immediately when you compare it to another subreddit. And this is something that Justin M on the call is helping lead, but just a fantastic example of what we can do when we partner closely with a brand and reach out to their volunteer moderators to make a really robust community. And this has led to it being one of the most engaged subreddits and communities on the platform of 2019. I'll play this really short video. I think it's maybe 5 seconds, 10 seconds. And it's just acknowledging that fact at Jeff Keighley's Game Awards in Los Angeles in December of last year.
Shouting out the most active game communities on Reddit in 2019. Fortnite BR, League of Legends, and Destiny the game.
Cool. Just a couple more here in terms of examples, guys. So the next one is Stadia. This one's a call out for a couple reasons. It's very unique in that Stadia, Google, set up their own subreddit. So again, hopefully it's been clear that Reddit is typically based off of volunteer moderators, not directly employed with said company or said organization or brand, but that doesn't preclude a brand from setting up their own subreddit. And because Stadia was new a couple of years ago and kind of a surprise, they went in proactively and set up their own subreddit, and it's actually been thriving. People that were engaging with the subreddit, they recruited to be volunteer moderators as well. So now it's made up of a mix of employees and volunteer moderators, but really kind of owned and steered, if you will, by Stadia. And that is very unique, first and foremost. But they've done a great job of really leveraging the Reddit Ask Me Anything, or AMA format, which is essentially where people can come to the platform and ask the Reddit audience to ask them anything. And it typically results in thousands, if not tens of thousands, of great comments based off of questions. And it's really an opportunity for the community to feel like they are truly engaged with the brand. In this sense, you can see one of the engineers, the product folks, came and actually did a AMA. Actually, wound up doing 2 AMAs over the course of a few months. Andre asking questions, and it was an absolute success. And we've seen this subreddit grow quite a bit, even since this was posted, I think 6 or 7 months ago. And then lastly, in terms of an exemplary subreddit, we have a great partnership with our friends at Microsoft and Xbox. And so we set up what's called OAuth, which is the ability to essentially sign in to Xbox Live with a Reddit credential. And when that happens, actually you're automatically signed up for this subreddit, r/Xbox Insiders, where, as it sounds, you're able to share in a lot of insider information coming from the brand Xbox. So Xbox and the employees there are actively engaged in this subreddit and communicating with the community about things that need to be improved, things that are desired in the console, and just a really great format for dialogue. In fact, we just talked to the folks at Microsoft a few days ago, and we did learn that they are actively engaged. Many people at the company are actively engaged, listening in the subreddit to find out what's kind of going on and what the what the trends are and what people are talking about in terms of their product. So this has been another great success story. And this is just a case study that we wanted to put in here that I mentioned earlier around Google Stadia and hosting the AMA. Really, really, really strong execution. You can see that it drove a lot of excitement on the platform. And I think we had over 5,000 comments for this particular AMA. And it really, really hit the mark for Google, and they're very happy with it. It's important to note that AMAs can be organic in nature, and we have a team that will work with you to have a successful organic AMA. There's also a paid opportunity if you wish to amplify that beyond the subreddit or community that's actually hosting that AMA or Ask Me Anything. So definitely something to consider if you're looking for feedback from your customers, from your community. And just wanted to highlight this one because they're a strong partner of ours. Xbox One has done quite a few AMAs over the course of time. You can see here that they've done, this must be a couple dozen AMAs, and are looking to do a few more around the Series X, and it's launched this fall with us. So definitely something to consider, even for indie developers, all the way up to the biggest brands in gaming. All right. So with that, Justin, I will pass the mic over to you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
That was awesome to see. You know, I'm a lifelong gamer. One of my earliest memories is actually of Mario Brothers on NES. So I have seen such a huge change in the way that games are being displayed in pop culture. I mean, even 10 years ago, it was not what it is today. And Reddit being a community of communities, we're seeing and we're enjoying a large amount of the growth that the game industry is feeling, especially in terms of how the games are shaping up today. You know, community-based games are so important now that, free-to-play games are incredibly, they're ubiquitous now, and we're seeing a lot of different communities pop up to kind of represent them. So a lot of the stuff that we're seeing on the platform is a lot of reaction to news that happens within the industry. You know, that's nothing new. Since the platform has been around, people have talked about current events on Reddit. So what is different with what we're going through, Brent, if you can change the slide, is kind of the stuff that we're doing today. So, Brent touched on this with the Game Awards. That was kind of a first in kind for us in terms of expanding our brand and when it comes to games. And that's something that we continue to do. This actual same group was at an Xbox Studio Summit where we also discussed a very similar topic, and we're having this conversation today. So how are we expanding our brand forward, and how are we growing our presence, and just making sure we're at the top of the hearts of people's minds? If you can change slide. On top of media engagements, we are also doing one-of-kind partnerships, and that's something that Brent touched on with the Xbox subreddit. But the way that the user flow works here is that on the Xbox or Microsoft Game Bar, you're able to find Reddit just like you would any of the other social platforms and link your accounts, use your credentials to sign in. And then what will happen is when a user links their accounts, they'll get auto-subscribed to r/Xbox Insiders, and they'll be given a little trophy, which you see on the top right, which is our custom Snoovatar. It's a Snoo, which is the name of our mascot, wearing this really cool Xbox branded hoodie. And if you could change slide. So what we actually saw when we had this funnel open is that it really opened the floodgates in terms of users migrating to the actual subreddit itself. The integration went live in December 17th of 2019, so about 6 months ago. So when you're taking a look at the growth of that subreddit 6 months before and 6 months prior, they were seeing some relatively healthy growth from June to December. They were at roughly 15 to 18,000. And by the time that December rolled around, they're in the mid-20s. But once the integration went live, combined with the marketing that we did, we saw that users were constantly just linking their accounts to get this trophy, to find out what Xbox Insiders is. And now they're at, I think I just checked, 99.3K subscribers, which is pretty huge for any community, I would say. But considering that Xbox Insiders is more of almost a beta program, it's not necessarily about a specific game. It's about different features on the hardware side. This is really excellent to see. This is a community run by Microsoft, so it's something that they put a lot of time and effort into. But they admitted themselves that they didn't do a whole lot to really stimulate this growth, especially not from the first 3 to 4 months. A lot of what we're seeing here was accelerated by just having our brand, Reddit, the ability to jump in from another external source. So if you go to Xbox Insiders, you'll see a link at the bottom of the page saying, hey, click here to go to the subreddit. And if you go on your game bar, if you're on a Windows, you can do the account link there. So that's just an example of the types of experiences that we're creating now, and hopefully things that we will iterate on in the future. Next slide. So Reddit's mission with gaming partners: to enhance community and drive relevance via innovative and impactful media partnerships and integrations. So this can be broken down to 3 different tracks. The first one is mutually grow each other's brands, or DAU. So there is a virtuous cycle that now exists on the platform where gamers will play the game that they like to play, and then they'll come to Reddit to talk about it. So how do we amplify this bridge? Well, we do that with partnerships. Things like the Xbox OAuth integration that we just saw. How do we get users from the platforms they're on onto Reddit? And then vice versa, how do we get users on Reddit to go back to play the games that they love? And these are the types of things that the partnerships team is constantly working on and iterating. create industry-shaping, non-transactional partnerships. And this is true across, all the teams here at Reddit, that we want to make partnerships, not transactional ones. And things like the Xbox integration is kind of a great example of how we were able to solve a problem that technically didn't exist. That's always the fun part of BD, is figuring out how can two companies work together that don't typically work together on paper. And then becoming the de facto community platform for all game partners. And this one is near and dear to my heart. I'm a lifelong Redditor, lifelong game player, and I love to see the combination of these two. And the way I think about Reddit, or the analogy that I use to kind of describe it, is Reddit is kind of like this mansion party. Like the foyer, where the main lobby, is your front page. That's where all the conversations are happening about a million different topics. What happens is there's side rooms that have more niche, specific conversations. Think of them as subreddits. They have subreddits for gaming, subreddits for cooking, cleaning, fashion, whatever. When a conversation in one of those rooms gets loud enough, or it gets enough engagement, it bleeds into your front page or to the main foyer. So a lot of discovery happens just by someone sitting on the front page saying, oh, there's this conversation that's happening in this subreddit. I didn't even know about it. Let's go discover it. And that's kind of the beauty of the platform, is that anything that you could think of to have an interest in exists on the platform. So gaming, because it's becoming so big nowadays, we're seeing a lot of the content be gaming focused, but we're also seeing a large amount of users in different communities. So why is it important for a brand to improve their standing on Reddit? Is because when a user is on Reddit to look up things for, let's say, sports, they want to look up NFL stats. If there is a game conversation that's happening, it might pop up on their front page, and then it's always top of mind for them. So they can be exploring a bunch of different topics. Bam, they get information about the newest game release that happened, or, hey, that game that they used to play has a new DLC that's coming out. So it's always important to kind of keep that in mind when it comes to users. We have a wide spread of different interests. So if you want to go to the next slide. And to illustrate that, this is showing some of the new content verticals that have been growing on the platform. Gaming is still by far the largest, but what we're seeing is we're getting a lot of communities that are popping up around things like beauty and style. Family and parenting is going through very large increases in terms of communities. Food, news, fitness. That's to say that we have a very wide and varied user base. And I think right now we're at like 60-40 male to female, which is a very awesome stat. And I think we're trying as hard as we can to get to 50-50. But when you think about the crowd on Reddit, they are diverse and they have a lot of interests. But gaming is something that will always have a place on the platform. So it's something to keep in mind, is that our audience is mixed, but as gaming is very ubiquitous today, it's something that is applicable to almost everybody. Okay, next slide. Great. So when it comes to a company or a game company's involvement with Reddit, it's always easy to break it out into a crawl, walk, run approach. So crawl, this is something where it is mostly marketing based. There's not going to be a whole lot of technical or product and resources needed on either side. So these come at community interaction levels. So things like announcements. When a game is announced, like, is it going to be on the platform? DLC, when new content comes out for that particular game, does it exist on the platform? Marketing beats and RPN, which is something I'll get to later in the deck. But these are all things that can be amplified when a member of the actual brand itself pops onto the conversation that's happening and just says, hi, how are you guys doing? Thank you for blah, 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 checking out our video. Be on the lookout for more stuff from us in the future. And what that does is that really sends a signal to the audience on the subreddit that, the brands are paying attention. You're looking, you're engaged. This isn't a bubble where they're just in, completely sectioned off part of the internet. It's something where they can actually interact with the brands that they love. And then also things like AMAs, or Ask Me Anything. It's one of our more popular terms. It's when the audience gets to ask a person of authority, whatever that might be, anything. And oftentimes we have AMAs that are about specific topics, but sometimes they are, from a general adjacent topic. So if you're a game developer, you can do an Ask Me Anything. Or if you're on the art and creative teams, what does it take to go into creating a portfolio of art that goes into a video game? Or even talent, like voiceover talent. These are AMAs that really kind of let users see a behind the curtain scene and get a better understanding of what the brand represents, and really improves the profile on the platform. And then we have feedback loops and polling. These are relatively newer products, but it's a way for you to tap into the communities and understand what their pain points are, what they like to see. And, it really gives you a good sense of, your communities and their sentiments. And then we get to the walk phase. So the walk phase is where a lot of game companies are trying to get to, or where I'm trying to push a lot of these game companies. And the walk phase is where you'll start to see some product and tech requirements needed. But that includes things like the OAuth account link that I just described earlier. So how can we get a branded snoo trophy or auto-subscribe to a relevant community? Like, that's something that we can do today. But going forward, we have experiments or things that we're looking to expand our reach to. These include topics under community engagement, commerce, and then expanding these account link incentives for why someone should have linked their accounts. We're in the walk phase right now, and each company is at a different phase. I would say many of the companies are somewhere in between crawl and walk. Some companies aren't even at the crawl phase. So that's something that kind of helps a company understand where they are in terms of sophistication on the platform. And then the exciting part is the run phase. This is very aspirational. This can take many shapes or forms, but this is the vision that we have based on the roadmaps that we're seeing and based on the needs of the communities. But this would be more platform level integration. So things like an engagement product integration. So how can you get polls that directly feed back into the game world itself? Tight commerce and gifting loops. Gifting is very common on the platform in terms of like giving out awards. How can we get that to be a user giving away in-game goods in the communities that they frequent? And exclusive content and reveals. Things like, hey, if we can get a snoo branded, Summoner's Ward in League of Legends, or a snoo spray for Counter-Strike. These are the types of things that, really expand the presence forward and lets people know to come back to Reddit to talk about these individual things. And then embedded Reddit content and player suggestions into games. This one I'm very excited about. As a gamer myself, I often come to Reddit to look up new tips and tricks on how to get better at the games that I play. And oftentimes there is a very genuine and upvoted approach on how to get there. I see a world where someday those tips are going to be integrated into the game, where if you hover over an icon, it'll say something like 90% of Redditors polled think that path A is better than path B, or that this is the correct build order. So that is our vision for Run. Some companies may never get there. Some of these may change drastically based on the experiments that we do in the walk phase, but that's what the exciting part of what we're looking at today. So if you want to go to the next slide. Here are some of the experiments that we are looking to perform in 2020 and beyond, broken out by the 3 topics. We have community engagement, so polls for representation and early access on the commerce side, Reddit products off platform, and in-game items on platform. And then expanding our OAuth incentives for things like displaying achievements or looking for group and matchmaking. So next slide. So community engagement and polls. This is an existing product. So a lot of subreddits are already using polls as a way to expand the engagement within the community. But how can a brand use this to their advantage? This is something where we had some great polls from the NFL. They actually dropped in and they said, hey, what team will win the Super Bowl? And then they displayed the results on an actual TV feed. So this is a great way to have that sense of community feedback. And it signals to them that, hey, when I actually interact with the brand, I get to enjoy something back. It's not a one-way flow of communication. And this is a really great way to, A, get a sense of what your community is doing, but B, kind of give back to them as well. Let them know that, hey, you are heard. If you want to go to the next slide. So yeah, if it's a great way, polls are a post type. So you go on an individual subreddit, you can create the poll, and you can have up to 6 different answers. And then, yeah, that's something that you can work with mods on sticking or just post it, at your own leisure. But it's great for garnering quick, quantifiable insights from the internet at large. It gives a quick pulse on what's working and where you think you should go. So if you ever have questions around what do my users want, think of it as another tool in your toolbox. All right, next. Early access. This is a relatively new phenomenon that we saw with Valorant, or at least it was really large with Valorant on Twitch, where users were able to watch a Twitch stream, grant access and get access to the Valorant closed beta. That's something that we would like to try with Reddit as well. And we saw this with Hyperscape, where they did something very similar. Let's say you have a game that's coming out. Can you grant early access to users who subscribe to your relevant subreddits? Think of that as a way to both foster growth, but also give back to your community, saying, hey, you're on our subreddits, you're on our communities. We want to give back to you. We want to give you a early access look, or whether that's exclusive items, whatever it may be. But this is something that I think worked really well for Valorant, and I think worked for Hyperscape as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing more of these trends in the future. So yeah, that's an example of how we can use community engagement to kind of fulfill this loop and get people from Reddit into the game. Next slide. And then when we look at commerce or Reddit products off platform, there are a lot of different programs that exist today that distribute different items across their user base. Two examples would be Xbox Game Pass Ultimate Perks and Twitch Prime. So how do we get Reddit products, things like Gold or Reddit Premium, onto these different platforms? For that reason, we will grow Reddit as a brand, but also depending on the program, depending on what platform they're on, it will really grow those individual subreddits where they're coming from. So if I get someone from, let's say, Xbox, when they join Reddit, there's a good chance they'll join Xbox branded subreddits. So this is a way to think about how Reddit can expand externally. And if you go on the next slide, this is how can we expand internally. So in-game items on Reddit is something where, kind of like the early access, how can you reward players for engaging on your subreddits that you care about? So the easiest way to do it would be something where we have a subscribe. Users who subscribe to an individual subreddit, they get, whether it's a loot crate in your game, early access. These are the types of experiences that really incentivize users to join the community. And once they're there, there's a much larger chance for them sticking around. And then, to refer back to the analogy I said earlier, have that conversation be more present in their main foyer every time they pop in today. So these are two tracks that I'm very excited about. They are already proven experiments, at least in different programs. So I'd like to see how they perform on Reddit. And next slide. So expanding OAuth and the types of incentives that a user gets for connecting their accounts. Gamer personas and gamer cred is very important these days. So how can we ingest the achievements or ranks of an individual player on their game and then display it on the platform? So something like the NBA 2K20, they have a very robust ranking system, or League of Legends. How can we show that when a user posts on r/League of Legends, that they can have flair next to the name that says, I am a platinum ranked player? So that does a few things. One, that allows them to kind of share their persona on the communities that they care about. But then it also adds a layer of validity and cred to what they say. So, if someone says, hey, I think XYZ is the best type of character, and then you see that, oh, they're a really high-ranking member, that adds a lot of credibility to what they're saying. So this is something that I'm really excited to push forward. I know that, from my time at Twitch, clout, cred, super important. And a lot of games these days are moving towards rank-based systems. This is a field that I'm particularly excited about. But yeah, next. Looking for group matchmaking. When I polled a bunch of my different partners across different platforms, I asked them what are some of the common pain points that they have. And almost all of them responded that getting a user to match up with friends or match up with the group outside of the random matchmaking queue is very important. Players that do so tend to stick around longer, which makes sense. If I'm playing with friends, I'll probably stick around and play one more game than if I'm playing with randos. So how can we foster this type of experience on Reddit's platform? We're doing a few experiments now where we did an experiment with chat posts, which is our version of chat for looking for a group. And we have a bunch of different adjacent subreddits to a large community that are specifically about looking for group. So we have an Apex Legends subreddit, but we also have a very large Apex looking for group subreddit. So how do we get these types of experiences on the platform and get users to match up with each other and then get them to go in and play the game? And there's a few ways that we could skin this cat. So we're always looking for new ways to kind of understand how to foster this type of experience on the platform. But it's something that, it resonates really well with different game developers that I speak with. And next slide. And RPAN. This is a relatively new product for us, but this is our Reddit Public Access Network. This is our live streaming product where users are able to go live and stream whatever content they want to stream. And we're finding that a lot of users naturally will stream gaming because that makes a lot of sense. Gaming is a long form content that you can do for hours on end ad nauseum, and is widely applicable to a lot of different viewers. Right now, if you go to the next slide, we are trying to expand the types of experiences that we see on the platform. So it's where users are able to broadcast live video across the platform, but it still follows a lot of the same rules that Reddit has: voting, awarding, and they can swipe to different videos at a time. So we're already seeing large amounts of interest from the community, but we're also seeing a large amount of interest from different brands on how they can be a part of this experience. Mainly because the RPAN experience is a very genuine one. We're not specifically a influencer heavy, very monetized experience. This is something where people go on here because think of it actually like a public access network where people do something maybe strange or weird, but it's genuine. It's always genuine, which is always something that really resonates with our community, is being genuine. If you go to the next slide. And we've already seen some great success with this. On the media partnerships team, we were able to do a partnership with Penguin Random House, and we hosted their first ever virtual convention. We had 18 best-selling authors participate in a series of AMAs and live readings, and that got hundreds of thousands of views and impressions, and was a type of experience that was really unique to the platform, but also something that the individual communities had a lot of great fun with. So I could see something where in the future, we have game developers coming on here showing off like, hey, here's the latest build of the game, or, voiceover artists playing the game as themselves and, talking to the community. And we just recently released our version of OBS called RPAN Studio. So now the types of experiences that will exist on the platform, I think, will only grow from there. But yeah, that is pretty much it for me. I just wanted to say that, working here has been a privilege. I love trying to expand all these different game companies' reach on the platform. Gaming is something I love. Reddit is something I love. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me directly. I'm happy to take a call. All right, that's it. Thanks, Brett.
All right, cool. Thank you. Hopefully now you guys have a better understanding, what Reddit is both historically and what we're doing actively with some of our partners in the gaming space. And I'm on the community relations team. So let's take a magnifying glass, if you will, and look into the weeds a bit more of the actual communities here on Reddit and, how to best interact with them. Next slide. So as you can see from this little snippet, it's a couple of our larger gaming communities. And here on the community team, we work closely with just about all of these different subreddits. And it goes as broad as to just gaming in general with almost 25 million subscribers. PC Master Race in the second column is just for gamers that are on PC. Obviously, there's console communities around PS4, Xbox, Nintendo, you name it. If there's a console, there's a community about it. And then obviously different game communities from sports, battle royales, The Sims, again, anything gaming related, whether it's broad or specific, there's probably a community on Reddit. Next slide. To backtrack really quick, I'm just going to talk about the community team mission, the team that I'm on. And the reason I'm doing this is because I think the community vertical itself within the gaming world is a very rapidly developing thing. I don't think game companies really honed in on communities 20 years ago, 10 years ago, and community members in different game companies do so many different things. So the community team mission at Reddit is to welcome the world to Reddit by supporting and nurturing our communities to ensure they are the best community experiences on the internet. Next slide. So with that said, how can you guys work with your communities or go out and create a community for your game, whatever it may be? Again, we're going to kind of talk through the crawl, walk, and run phase. Going into crawl, what you need to do, if there is already an established community for your game or product that you're working on, what you want to do is first, understand the community rules. You want to go in there and just kind of take an overview, what's going on, who are the moderators, what kind of posts are going in there. Every community is different. And when I've gone through these slides in the past, there's not a one size fits all. There are definitely guidelines, but depending on how your community operates, is really going to give you that indication on how you want to communicate and engage with them. So once you've understood the norms and rules of your communities, then you can introduce yourself and start to get familiar with the people that operate it, the moderators. You're able to send mod mail to moderators, and my recommendation is always to get to know the moderators first versus going into the community first, because they are kind of the gatekeepers to the community. And if you interact with the community first, the moderators might not know that you're verified or official, and they can help give you that authentic voice saying like, no, this is a person from the company talking on behalf of them. So you've understood the rules and norms of the community. You've now talked with the moderators. Then you can really start to get customized with how you want to interact and engage with the community. A lot of gaming communities, offer, special flair next to your name to give you that legit feeling. They have custom awards that might be specific to your game that you're doing. So you can actually see, little meta parts of your game being awarded on Reddit, which is always a cool thing to see. And then the tip at the bottom is be patient. Depending on the communities, these are moderators, people that are just passionate about Reddit and passionate about whatever the community is about. So, they have day jobs and they're doing other things. If they don't get back to you right away, maybe bump the message or give it some time, but it's not malicious by any means. Next slide. So, you've connected now with the moderators and you've gotten a good overview of the community itself. Then the next step is to really connect with the community, and we'll go through the same sort of guidelines for where to start. Again, the best thing you can do is create accounts related to your position at the company. So say I'm Brad and I'm a community manager at Reddit. My handle on Reddit might just be like CM_Brad or whatever my handle is in the game. On Reddit, I go by Brood. So I could just be like CM Brood or just Brood. And then the community itself could give you a flair next to your name saying this is a community manager at the company. We also recommend creating an account for the brand itself. We've seen, Nintendo has done this, Riot Games has done this, and they post various updates on their main account, which then gets seeded into the various communities that are related to Riot Games or Nintendo. Once you've created your accounts and you've talked with the moderators, the next real thing to do is actually start paying attention to the types of posts in the communities. Oftentimes they might be talking about patches, updates, what's coming next, what they're excited about, a lot of fan art we see in gaming communities. And the most simple way to start here is really to just comment and start building a presence on the community itself. So if you see a cool piece of fan art around your game, or maybe a lighthearted question about what's going on, just dropping in there and acknowledging the community is a really good thing to do. Okay, and then finally, you've talked with the moderators, you get the rules and the norms of your community, you have an account, maybe it's flared with your position at the company, you've been commenting, people recognize you, then you can really get into like the fun things, whether it's doing AMAs, teasing an official trailer for like the next thing to do, or, even asking for community feedback and then inputting that into the game directly. All those things can really level your community engagement up on the site. And, whether we like it or not, like people will be talking about the games on Reddit. So it's better to have some sort of presence than to just be silent and pretend like it doesn't exist. So again, follow these principles, consider participating. And again, on the community team, I've worked with dozens of game companies and game communities, so always happy to help. Next slide. So moving back into what the community team at Reddit does. We're not really like the social media gurus at Reddit. We actually just work with being the conduit for gamers on Reddit to the company and what they might need to have a better experience on site. Specifically, we support our users and mods, whether that's around a game launch, a new DLC, maybe there's some drama because they don't like what the game company did. We can always help work to alleviate those and make sure everything is running smoothly. And then we try to nurture great experiences. The one example that I love to call out is Extra Life charity event. We help organize this every year within all the different game communities. We help raise money for children's hospitals, and doing that through the different gaming subreddits really enables so much participation. It's always a a really positive experience to see which gaming subreddits raise the most money for that. Next slide. And then just some tips. I think we've kind of gone over this, but just to really hammer it down, building rapport on Reddit is the best thing you can do. Reaching out to the moderators of the subreddits related to your game, they're the front lines of your community, which is different than other owned forums where you might have more of like an admin saying what's going on. These are all organic, and if you reach out and influence the moderators, then they will really fight on your behalf. And, again, just remember, like, moderators moderate because they are passionate. So sometimes that criticism or feedback might be less constructive, but it's better to have that because they really do care about what you're building. So don't forget that. Next slide. And then again, like the ways to build presence, maybe you have a major gaming update, maybe there's patch notes you can share, maybe you can share the bugs that you're fixing in your game. Maybe these things are already happening organically on the site and you can come in and comment to acknowledge some of these things. Typically what I see on Reddit is the more presence you have acknowledging these things and making yourself heard and making your users feel heard, the better it's going to be in the long run. Next slide. And then this is the biggest one. And, I always feel a bit silly trying to make this point, but just listening and being genuine is the best thing you can do. We've seen companies run into trouble in the past where they almost just issue a PR statement to Reddit. And while that works, from a business to business endpoint, or it might work on Twitter where you're just broadcasting things out, but not necessarily interacting as much, Redditors really appreciate you just being genuine and down to earth with them. So if you can find that side of your company and where you are and bring that to Reddit, you're going to have a fantastic time. And obviously the last bullet point is, you don't need to feed the trolls. I think on the internet, some negative energy might be more vocal than the positive energy. And if you feed that, then, they're winning and they're just trying to get a rise out of you. So, it's 2020. We don't need to feed the trolls any more than we have in the past decade or two. Next slide. And, Brent pointed out to some of these earlier, but, ways to really celebrate your communities and the members that play your games. Again, Overwatch, after hitting 1 million subscribers, made a thank you video with the voice actors. Fortnite BR, again, they do giveaways within their community. And we see because of these small gestures that they really have a lot of success with, garnering moderator support, user support. So maybe they take a step back and do something that the community doesn't like. They've built up some rapport and a track record that they do care. Next slide. This is actually one of my favorite stories with my time on Reddit. So this is a short story time. We're almost done. And thank you guys for sticking with us. r/No Man's Sky, the game, is about the game No Man's Sky. And that game, before it launched, had incredibly high expectations. People were taking the videos and the teaser trailers that they saw and running wild in their minds about what the game could be. Upon launch, it didn't meet those expectations. And when users don't feel that their expectations are met, they might get a little toxic or angry, right? And at my time at Reddit, the No Man's Sky community was not having a good time. It was a bit of a dumpster fire. And spoiler, it does turn around, and I'm going to allude to the reasons why. So what the game company did was they started to build out new patches and really listening to the feedback that was given in that community. The subreddit almost shut down. The moderator was so tired of all the negative feedback because the game had not met expectation. They were just going to close the community. Our community team stepped in. We did a mod call, which is a call looking for people still willing to moderate the community, found some people that still believed in the vision, and they kept it running. So fast forward, we start with the dumpster fire and things not meeting expectations. And the reason this story is so important is no game is ever set in stone with where its community might be one day to the next day. After several updates and a large patch, the community turned around and fell in love with the game. And you'll see in this little image, it's a advertisement board outside Hello Games Studio from the Reddit community saying, thank you guys for building such an amazing game. So you go from a community that's just essentially talking bad about the game because it didn't meet expectations to the same community using their own money to pay for an advertisement outside the studio saying thank you for everything you've done. So, don't alienate yourself, keep talking to your users, and sometimes it just comes in time. And if you can do that, you can even turn what you might think is a toxic community, which is such a buzzword, but I don't think any community is toxic. I think there might be moments where users might feel unheard or they don't see their expectations being met, but that doesn't mean it's set in stone, and you can always turn things around. And, our community team at Reddit is here to help you figure that out if you ever find yourselves in a situation like that. Next slide. TLDR, a bit of some Reddit vernacular for you. Too long, didn't read. Listen to your users, communicate with them, and you'll have a great time. All right, I think that's going to be it for me, and I really appreciate you guys hearing the community side of the Reddit story. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Brad. That was awesome to see. And the No Man's Sky example is something that, is near and dear to me. No community is too far gone, and with enough attention and engagement, anything is possible. Okay, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in and hearing our talk. This is a time where we're, open to any questions you may have. I see that we had one pop in about raising money for charity. How do people get involved and make payments? I don't, that's not something that's come up with me a lot. Brad, have you had interactions with individual communities? I think that's, something you could speak to.
Yeah, I believe it's Z. Thanks for the question. Specifically to the example I gave earlier with Extra Life, we partnered with Extra Life. So the charity is actually handled through their platform. I believe it's extralife.org. And we just link through their charity site onto Reddit so people can go onto their site and then donate to the various hospitals. In terms of other charities, it's really up to the different communities to verify which ones that they want to support. But typically all those types of payments are just handled third party through the charity sites themselves. So hopefully that answered your question, Z. And thanks for asking.
Great. Does anyone else have any other questions? Going once, going twice, going three times. Okay. Thanks, everyone. We know it's pretty late over there in London. So I'll just close out and say this was an awesome experience and one that we were happy to be a part of. We do believe in the mission of Games London, that expanding gaming development is very important. Internationalization is something very important for Reddit as a company. Going forward, that is something that will be a major focus for us. And UK is actually one of the first bedrocks that we have in terms of our international expansion. So hopefully we'll see some really cool things happening in the local scene there. Every market is different, and that's something that we're coming to learn, is that the local cultures of each individual, country really dictates a lot of, the type of content they want to see. So once again, thank you so much. Feel free to reach out to us on the media at ALACC right here. And if not, have a great day.
Thank you, everyone.